You'll be well on your way to keeping your money where it belongs, in your wallet. Call Milwaukee Allstate Cindy Johnson at 414-445-2558. That's 414-445-2558. Home, auto, renters, condo, today for a free quote. Cindy, Nancy, and London can't wait to meet you.
Savings vary, subject to terms and conditions and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and its affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Milwaukee. This is Michelle Bryant, your host of Say Something Real. When President Joe Biden wanted to talk to Milwaukee voters, he called WNOV. And welcome President Biden to Milwaukee and to WNOV. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. I had a great event downtown, and I'm at the headquarters now, and we're feeling really good. It's a great day. We have a lot of volunteers, 1,000 volunteers going out here in Wisconsin, out of Milwaukee in particular.
So we are ready to roll in Wisconsin.
And I tell you what, God love you. We need Wisconsin, we need it all.
For up-to-date election information, keep it locked on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee. All right, party people in the place to see. Party is already started.
And I got all my sisters and men. And I want this time. Oh, this is
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant, on 860 WNOV.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. So in the spirit of elections and all things campaign, yesterday, we were extremely fortunate to have at this radio station U.S. Congressman James Clyburn. You know, as I drove in this morning, the national media outlets still talking about the presidential debate and President Joe Biden's performance, and people kept saying, you know, his age is the reason why he should step down. His age. And as Representative Jim Clyburn said on the show yesterday, that in 20 days, now 19 days, he will be celebrating the 45th anniversary of his 39th birthday. And when you do the math, you realize that this brother is turning 84 on July 21st and had 5 appearances on Sunday in Wisconsin. Had 5 appearances yesterday. Took phone calls, had a full agenda. And he is older than both President Biden and Donald Trump. Older than both of them. And I just watched him move around yesterday. I listened to him talk, his recollection of, you know, everything from his parents' first ability to vote to talking about what's at stake for the November elections and this country as we go forward. So that whole ageism piece, we all have seen people that are younger who seem much older because of lifestyle choices, the appearance, the way they engage. And we've seen people that are much older who appear to be a lot younger because of how they've kept themselves up physically, the mental acumen, the fact that they have not fallen into a sedentary routine existence, and they do little to stimulate either their mind or their body. They just sitting there, you know, just not doing anything to keep the juices flowing, as my mother used to say when she got up and did her exercises in her house. Or got out in the garden and did her walking and, you know, challenged herself to learn something new to make, because the brain has to keep, you know, adjusting to absorb new information. So I went to an event after we got off the radio yesterday over at the African American Women's Center. Big props always to Miss Josephine Hill and Diane and the women over at the African American Women's Center who uh, keep this venue moving and going. But I went over there for a luncheon and I heard Congressman Clyburn speak in depth. Uh, there were other pastors. I mean, there were pastors that were on the program. Pastor Martin Childs, who I have indicated that I told him yesterday I want to invite him to the show. Pastor Martin Childs was so phenomenal in his commentary about why we need to be engaged, about why we need to be civically involved, why we need to vote. That when Representative Clyburn stood up to make his remarks, he actually teased Pastor Childs and said he gave my speech. So now I'm gonna give the speech he should have gave. It was so funny at that moment. But even Congressman Clyburn had to acknowledge that what Pastor Childs said, he knocked it out the park in terms of why engagement was important. But one of the things that Congressman Clyburn did, he brought up the Rutherford B. Hayes decision for the presidency again in that setting. And he talked about how there was a standoff in terms of, because when he said we've been here before, the January 6th riots, people wanting to, try to change the outcomes for the presidency. And he talked about two candidates, Tillman and Rutherford B. Hayes, who were locked in this presidential contest where you needed 185 electoral votes to secure the presidency, and Tillman had 184. It was one short, and Rutherford B. Hayes had 165, but neither had hit 185. So everything goes to the House of Representatives for a decision to be able to figure out how they're going to determine who should be the president. Now remember, one person was within one vote of securing the presidency. House of Representatives meets, and Congressman Clyburn did a skillful job of connecting that to January 6th, when you got people asking Mike Pence not to certify the election results, kick it back to the House of Representatives, who could basically pull a Rutherford B. Hayes moment on January 6th. Because what that House of Representatives group did, they met with both candidates. And as Congressman Clyburn said, Rutherford B. Hayes, who had 165 delegate votes, he told the members of the House of Representatives, if you support me for president, I will immediately end Reconstruction. Remember, Reconstruction was the period after slavery in which freed Black people were able to run for public office. That's how we get Hiram Revels as our first African American United States Senator. People were running for mayors, they was running for governor, they were getting elected to state legislatures. States had multiple Black representatives in Congress. And there were a contingency of white people who did not like that. So the thing that the person who wasn't even close to the 185 necessary votes, delegate votes, what he said to the House of Representatives is, select me and I will end Reconstruction. And on the strength of that promise, The man who was one vote away did not get elected president because there was a 15-member panel that had been convened to make this decision. It split 8-7 about making Rutherford B. Hayes the president. So, in essence, one person and their one vote tipped the scale. And with that, the way Representative Claiborne talked about it yesterday, we get Jim Crow, we get black codes before that. We get thrown back into a situation of segregation, you know, full on racism because of the power of these votes. So when people tell us voting is not important, you get a man who shouldn't have been president to become president because of one vote. When you think about what we saw happen yesterday with the United States Supreme Court and the decision by the uh, split along ideological lines, the conservatives on the Supreme Court to say that, yeah, there is a level of immunity that the President of the United States has um, while, doing stuff in their official capacity. And people walked away with this historic decision like, what just happened? I am so proud of the people in this community because the number of people that reached out to me in a, to either vent about it, say, okay, Michelle, so exactly what does this mean? How does this affect everything going forward? How does this affect the cases that have been brought against Donald Trump? And one of the things that the courts did is they said that, yeah, presidents have a degree of partial immunity. It wasn't immunity full on, full stop, 100%. No matter what you do while you're in the office, you are immune from prosecution. That's not what they said. They said if you are acting in your official capacity. But this was the question. Who determines what you whether or not what you're doing is in your official capacity? So the Supreme Court basically kicked this can back down to the lower courts. And Jack Smith, the special counsel in this case, like this has guaranteed that none of this will be heard before the election. None of this will be heard because now Jack Smith has to go back, regroup on the charges that he brought, argue, in front of the courts that he should be able to proceed and have people help to interpret how the Supreme Court's ruling changes the game for him. So this was the thing. If Donald Trump decided to kill Melania Trump while he was the president, some people would say that's not an official act. So, of course, he's not protected. He's not given immunity. He could be charged. But if Donald Trump says, I killed Melania Trump because she was aware of classified information that we were concerned that she had been disclosing to our enemies, because we do kill people in this country. We kill, terrorists. We kill adversaries. We do execute people in this country who we find to be a threat to our democracy. We do that. So who then gets to hear this and decide official act, unofficial act? What's official and what's not official? Because as you think about the way January 6th unfolded, okay, when you think about the fact that Donald Trump saw the Capitol being attacked, did nothing initially to stop, to quell the protesters. He encouraged it, he incited it, he invited it. You did this in your official capacity. So you're immune? Because they got to figure out, like, well, was this for personal gain that you didn't do this? Would that make it unofficial? Like, how does this work? And with the decision, this in this 6-3 ruling, again, broken down along ideological lines, they basically have said in a lot of ways that the president is above the law. I don't care what the justices say. Justice Roberts, who wrote the majority position, you know, it, you have created a situation in which the president of the United States can be treated very, very differently from other American citizens. And this whole, well, you can retaliate against your political rivals. The one person that we know for sure that will retaliate against political rivals is the ignoramus that's running on the Republican side of the ticket. Because he said it. His initial support of the chance, lock her up, lock her up. And you see him clapping and, getting all into it at all these rallies. And then when it was his turn to be locked up for real, oh, I didn't say that. Like, I don't like weak people. That just, it irks me. Because if I said it, I said it. I'll own what I do. Just throw the ball, and they don't even throw the ball and hide their hand. They bust you in the face with it. And then when you get ready to hit them back, they start crying. I have just never seen people who purport to be tough guys who are so thin-skinned and weak and always whining and crying. Some of the most privileged people in the world. Donald Trump is in that category. But every time you turn around, it's whining and crying and everybody's against me and I don't get treated fairly. You steal classified documents, and when they come for them, you hide them. They got evidence of you moving them to different properties, moving them on the property. People have gone to jail or come forward and said, yeah, this is what this dude was doing. And because of this Supreme Court ruling, all of these things are now thrown into jeopardy. Last night, Donald Trump's team made an appeal request or are preparing the work. The one case, and Carlos, I'll be right there. The one case that has stood up has been Alvin Bragg's case. The case that everybody belittled. He shouldn't have never brought it. It's a silly little case. It's not going anywhere. That's the only case, aside from what Letitia James did, that's still stupid. That's the case. The little engine that people dogged and like, question this black man's abilities and, what kind of lawyer are you and da-da-da. That's the case that's still standing. Out of all of these cases, Jack Smith's case is the most important, consequential, and blah, blah, blah. And Alvin Bragg should have stood down, but it's Alvin Bragg who at this point, outside of the civil side on what Letitia James and the Attorney General was able to do before her, that's the only criminal case right now that's moving. That's not getting ready to get bogged down. But Donald Trump's people are saying, because we have immunity per the Supreme Court justices, half of whom I appointed that are conservative, yeah, even though I was paying hush money to obstruct the voters from having all the information they needed to make an informed decision, I should be immune from being found guilty in this case, and I want it overturned. That's what's happening also as a result of the actions of the Supreme Court. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Well, good morning, Mr. Michelle Bryant.
Good morning, JT. How you doing this?
I'm doing quite well, and how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
And good morning to that double legend, Mr. Devo.
What's happening, man?
I'm doing okay. And yourself? Doing well?
I'm just fine.
Okay, all right. I ain't mad at you. And Michelle, I'm on my way to vote for Keisha Myers and whoever else I happen to recognize on the ballot today. I just want to make a quick comment. May sound somewhat adolescent, but however, I'm just wondering, since the Supreme Court gave Donald Trump the degree of immunity that he does now, that he can enjoy, what about Biden saying to himself, oh, okay, if you're going to give him those immunity privileges, how about this? Department of Justice about to arrest Donald Trump and throw his brother in jail for lying about those documents and trying to rape those ladies lying about that. Go ahead and get them. Now, can they say, oh, no, you can't do that, Mr. President? Oh, I have immunity. I can't do that. But you just passed that law. I was just thinking, like I said,
But this is the other part, JT. If Donald Trump is elected, he controls DOJ, and he gets to tell them to stop the investigation into all of those issues. But I'm just saying,
like tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. And you know, but whatever happens, again, in 4 months, I mean, what is it? It's July?
Yeah, a few months.
Yeah, this dude gets elected, like all of this can be wiped out. We right back where we started.
Let's just pray to God that it doesn't get that far. And people will get out there and do their due diligence and vote for real this time, because it's no game.
All right.
It's for real. All right. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, JT. Somebody just hit me up and said, I've been telling you guys to watch Handmaid's Tales for over 2 years to wake us up. Voting has consequences. If we don't put Joe Biden back in office, this country is in trouble. What is it going to take? Because the other thing, when the Supreme Court makes this ruling yesterday, all of the core activity that Trump sought to protect himself from by way of getting immunity, he was granted. He got it. The conversations with the DOJ, trying to get people on board to overturn the elections, all of that is covered under that portion of absolute immunity while he was in office. So many of these cases are getting ready to fall potentially under the weight of this ruling. The Supreme Court knew what they were doing. The conservative justices, a conservative, how do you get to weigh in on this when you flying a flag at your house upside down talking about stop the steal? How do you get to weigh in? How do you get to weigh in on this when you Clarence Thomas and taking trips and money and gifts and donations from big time conservative supporters? How do you get to weigh in? And this was the thing in listening to Congressman Clyburn's comments. Caller, I'll be right there. But in listening to Congressman Clyburn's comments yesterday, that I just had to slow down and think about. Remember on my show, he talked about his parents getting an effective vote. An effective vote. And you know, I said, what is that? He talked about it. But up until that time, the Supreme Court, as it was constructed at that time, they were affirming decisions to make voting an impossibility for Black people, to restrict civil rights, like, because these are just people. And if you are just people with an agenda and you get in the right position, there were people that were racist Supreme Court justices back in the day making decisions that went against the protections of the civil rights, voting rights, human rights of Black folks in this country through the highest court in the land. Somebody hit me up and they said, wait, let me see. If Trump wins, the 14th Amendment will be reversed and we will be a 3/5 person. The sad part, while I chuckled when it came up, we stand to literally go back in time. Let me take this call now. I hope you understand why. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
Good morning, Debo. You know something? I think it's really fair that the Supreme Court did. But when I was getting online this morning, I saw where Trump's lawyer said this might backfire on you, meaning that I believe they can prove that he was outside of his job and for the concern of the people when he allowed them to come to go into the Capitol and do that. And you could prove that he had his hand in it, telling different groups to be there. The evidence is all there. Yeah, it might take a little time, and it's going to be after the election. But the most puzzling thing to me is, how do you allow a man to even run for president when he's got all this going on in the first place? And so now, when you look at what a felon is, there must be degrees to it now. So that must mean now, if you have if you can be the president of the United States as a felon, then the felon should be able to go and vote. But because we are allowing a person that's vindictive to act for such power, knowing that he's going to be doing trashy things. So I hope the people that are sitting on their butts saying, I'm going to sit this one out, trust me, you better not. Because this, whether Trump wins or not, we are in trouble. Do you understand that? Whether he's in office or not, he still has his minions that are going to do his bidding. And until we continue to vote for the next 15 years to clean out these Republicans that don't believe in doing things to serve the people, what's for the good of the country, we're in trouble. If we don't think, let's not have a legislative Republican and a Republican governor. If we don't fix those two things and make sure that they're not the same, we're in trouble. So stop playing checkers and let's play chess. And start thinking ahead like they do. While we're partying and doing all this stuff, they're studying, looking at ways to bring us down. And then these people that are running around doing Trump's bidding in the black community ought to be ashamed of themselves, and we should shut them down. That's just my opinion. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you so much. And let me just say this as a programming note. Next week, Tuesday, if all goes according to plan, I'm actually going to have a Republican on my show who is African American. And we are going to discuss some of the issues. We're going to discuss the RNC coming, in the next 2 weeks to Milwaukee, the impact on the Black community. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. If nothing happens and, there isn't a reschedule or something, right now I am actually scheduled to have a conversation with a African American Republican on the show next week. And it should be entertaining listening. I will tell you that. So before the caller got on the line, I said I wanted to give you some examples of what we're facing. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I want to be able to quickly highlight a number of states who have continued to try to figure out how to marginalize, reduce voter engagement, voter turnout, to discourage people from participating, and obviously the impact that has on the Black community, but then talk about how today we think about the 1964 Voting Rights Act, and 1965 Voting Rights Act, and 1964 Voting Rights Act, and Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, his role in this. Congressman Clyburn brought up LBJ and his whole agenda to eliminate poverty and racial injustice, and how Republicans work to shut it down and stop many of these important programs that, if they were not in existence, many people could not make it today. I'll talk about that on the other side. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Be right back.
with its support in terms of litigating on behalf of people who have been disenfranchised?
Sure, Charles. First of all, this case that came out is just ludicrous. Advancement Project, we opened our doors in 1999, and in 2000, we were counsel on behalf of the NAACP against Katherine Harris for the suspect purge of Black voters. That was brought under Section 2. We sued the state of North Carolina over the monster voter suppression law that they passed under Section 2. We are in court right now in Georgia around the voter suppression law that was passed after the 2020 election. And so this is important because civil rights plaintiffs should be able to vindicate the voting rights of Black folks. And what this court has done is turned its head on decades of litigation that have been brought by civil rights plaintiffs and left it to the Department of Justice. And it's important to understand that the Department of Justice, first of all, can't bring all the cases because they don't have the resources. And second, in particular instances like that 2000 election, the Department of Justice would not have brought that case because they have political implications for that administration. And so they won't bring all the cases. And so our lawyers have to be the ones to be able to go into court and sue on behalf of civil rights plaintiffs and organizations.
Yeah, I want to pick up.
So, family, I wanted to play just a portion of this. This was an interview that was on MSNBC several months ago, talking about the dissolution and the efforts to break down the 1965 Voting Rights Act. I talk all the time about the fact that Black people in earnest got the right to vote with the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And that, in fact, I was already born when Lyndon B. Johnson in August of 1965 signed. I was going on 1 year old. He signed it a few days before my birthday, the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And right now, we are seeing in places like Georgia and Florida, North Carolina, Alabama, Kansas, Missouri, Montana, Texas, all of these states that are continuing to pass voter registration laws, put in pieces of legislation that would criminalize giving somebody a bottle of water when you're standing outside in 102-degree weather because you're waiting to vote. They've reduced the number of polling locations that you can vote at, which has increased the waiting lines. But in the white communities, not a problem. An abundance, a plethora of voting locations. White people breezing in and out. But in Fulton County, Georgia, we messed with the number of voting locations. And so people are in line for 4 and 5 hours to try to cast their vote. But before we can get to the Voting Rights Act of 1965, we gotta pay attention to the the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And a lot of people don't appreciate everything that particular piece of legislation did. But today, July 2nd, is the anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Okay? LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, signs this on July 2nd. I'm not born yet. I'm going to be born a month later. But at that time, what this legislation did, extend civil, political, and legal rights to African Americans and ended segregation in public and private facilities. That happened just a few weeks before I was born. So when we talk about this stuff is ancient and it's history and it's way in the past and things have changed and we've made progress in my lifetime, critical legislation is passed so that I can vote as an adult Black woman without the poll taxes, the bubbles on the bar. So the jelly beans in the jar, you know, reciting the Constitution word for word, that I can vote in my lifetime. This happened. My frustration that we have not, as a community, done everything we could to make sure that somebody Carvey's age knows what we went through to be here to say, hey, Carvey, go vote, bruh. You turned 18. You are now of legal age to cast a vote, and to help him understand why, not just, you know, because people who don't want to hear the history of it, but when you don't understand history, you doomed to repeat it. If you don't get it, if you don't appreciate that we've been in a time when the Supreme Court discriminated against Black people, really, that the highest court in the land put a rubber stamp on laws that discriminated against us, our rights are tenuous in this country. I don't know that we appreciate that as Black people. And one of the things that was said in that clip, that people not equating voting with political power, not creating voting with getting better streets, better schools, better resources, a different taxing structure. And if we don't do it as a collective, if we only got 20% of us showing up to do it instead of all of us that are eligible showing up to do it, then we lose that power, because there is strength in numbers. And so people do what they can. They do what they can to chip away at our power. But on some level, we give it away. We give it away. When Rosa Parks, all these folks decide they're going to stay off these buses, okay, in terms of segregation and public transportation. When you think about going into a bathroom, and like right now, it's funny, and I don't know why, but I go to a bathroom and I look up for signage or the little logo, and you see male or female. I don't know why I do it, but 90% of the time, something always waves over me when I think about my mother looking up, not my grandmother, my great grandmother, my great 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 grandmother, but my mama, who just passed in 2020. My mother looking up, not at male, female, but at colored and white. My mother. And that this was legally sanctioned, legally allowed. The people that were voted into power were able to make these decisions when we learn how to leverage that vote. And somebody said this, I think Representative Claiborne said this on the show yesterday or either at the luncheon. Protests were born because we did not have the power to vote. We could not impact elected officials with our power to vote because we were limited in the ability to exercise that right. So in a lot of cases, all we had was marching in the streets because we didn't have the power of the ballot box. And in just this short amount of time, 55 years or so, people have become complacent. And, you know, I got to go to the grocery store today. I'm not going to get to vote. I got to do this. I got to do that. But not that long ago, you had to stand up and look at a sign and decide if you was at the right bathroom, because it wasn't about male and female. It was about nigga versus white. That's what it was about. But it's people listening to my voice right now that will not, y'all. If you listen to this, then you're not that type of person. But we know them. Who will tell you, yeah, I don't see, oh no, it's some non-voters that listen because they call me and tell me. I don't see the point. I don't see the truck drivers. I don't see the point. But when you get out that truck and you go to that gas station and you need to take your shower and you need to relieve yourself and go to the restroom, the power of voting and putting in a progressive leadership team like John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Baines Johnson gets us dismantling of segregation in public facilities. You got to be able to connect the dots, y'all. You have to. When you make a decision to vote or to stay home, it's still a decision. And it still has consequences. If you show up or if you stay home, it still is a decision. You're making a decision to do nothing, to leave your future up to other people to decide for us, to allow the Supreme Court to become stacked with people that could care less about precedent, who sat and lied in everybody's faces about Roe v. Wade, who have been happy to allow the erosion of voting rights because guess who it protects? People of color. Somebody said, Michelle, my birth certificate has my race down as colored. So does mine. So does mine. That's what that's what it says. So I don't want it to be lost on anybody what was achieved with the 1964 voting. I keep saying voting, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I don't want it to be lost because we've had other civil rights acts. We had the Civil Rights Act of 1957, the Civil Rights Act of 1960. We had to keep amending these acts and adding to these acts because we realized the loopholes that people would find and still find a way to violate our rights. But if we don't step up and stay in this game, somebody said my mother's birth certificate has her sex. Girl, shut up. I ain't never heard this in my life. Somebody just texted me and said my mother's birth certificate has her sex as gal. Gal. I ain't never heard that before in my life. Now I gotta Google that. I have never heard that before in my life. And gotta spell Gal. Gal. Indianola, Mississippi. That's where she said it happened. Indianola, Mississippi.
That probably was the midwife.
I wonder. But would midwives be doing a birth certificate though? They wouldn't do a birth certificate. I think they provide the
midwife because midwife would.
She has made me curious. I'm about to do some homework. One of the things, and I'm going to keep repeating James Clyburn because I was so enamored by his conversations yesterday. But he said, while you are involved in a calling, he's talking about members of the clergy and people that are religious, you need to step up to the calling that's on us today. Callers, I see y'all, here I come. But we choose what we want to listen to. We choose the fights we want to get in. We will fight for religious freedom. We will fight to have faith. We will fight to work the way we want to. But you won't fight to vote. You won't raise hell about discriminatory behavior. We won't fight to protect diversity, equity, and inclusion. We won't fight to protect what's taught in our public school system and to protect African American history, which is American history. We won't fight for those things. We choose what we fight for. I'm going to answer one calling, but not the other. And then I'm going to make excuses for not answering. He said something else yesterday. He said, while folks is waiting to put their golden slippers on in heaven, I need you to put some leather on the streets, on earth. It just can't be. You know what? That's the one thing that I'll say. And people, get hot with Al when he called. But what Al say, while y'all waiting to go to heaven to see the pearly gates and the good time and the equality and the fairness, you could have that on earth if you would get up off your behind and fight for it. You could have it. Or you could come real close. I don't want to wait till I die to enjoy the afterlife. You get to do both. But if you won't stand up for yourself, if you won't make sure everybody in your house drags their behind to the polls that's eligible to vote, let me tell you something right now. You couldn't stay in Peter Bryant's house if your behind did not participate civically and go vote. You ain't eating his food. You ain't benefiting from his heat. You not watching his TV if you didn't do what you were supposed to do. That man with a third grade education and who talked about the treatment that they endured as black people, I'd be dang if you thought a Tuesday election day came and you wouldn't participate. Couldn't do it. And people are like, I don't know how it impacts us. It don't change nothing. Again, just have to go to the bathroom. At the casino, at the tavern, at the concert, at school. Just have to go to the bathroom and understand how a vote changed which door you go through. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
What I want to say is two things. I said this right here. Matter of fact, I'm going to start off with this. My grandmother's birth certificate had nigrous on it. Nigrous, which was a term for females down in Selma, Mississippi. Okay. And the crazy thing about it was this. They didn't issue, when she was born, they didn't issue black people birth certificate. So they had to give her one when the state officially started issuing them. So you got a birth certificate, but it ain't her original. She's dead now, but it was never her original birthday.
My grandfather had that.
Yeah.
We had 2 birthdays for him because we had no idea because no birth certificate was issued.
Yeah, so the second part is I said this to Al Sharpton on the radio. Me and him spoke. But I said, this is where you're losing a lot of people. And it's not that you don't have people, young people who don't want to fight. You're being allowed that game. They're being allowed that game to be played against them. So you have people coming out there saying, "See, would you take this way? It don't bother you. It's not going to affect you." And somewhere down the line, we screwed up, and we allowed them to have it so easy that we failed somehow to let them know you didn't get nothing free. For everything we got, it cost us sweat, blood, and tears, 100%. And I remind my kids of this all the time. Everything you have, from your grandmother, grandfather, on up, talk for it. Do not allow someone to tell you otherwise. And then you have people who tell you, you know what, I have no problem fighting, but I ain't going to fight for that homosexual stuff. Because that ain't part of my belief system. Okay, well, yeah, I get it. But you got to fight for something. And it's very difficult for them to understand that. And I think that's where we lose a lot of people at, because you have a lot of people in the churches, etc. They side with the Trumpers because the Trumpers are anti-homosexuals. And they prefer to see everything go down, sports first policy before they allow the homosexuals to have anything.
Well, I can't argue with anything that you said. I mean, I know that there are folks that are not necessarily Trump supporters who are anti-LGBTQ. And, again, we'll make decisions, single issues that have long-term implications and a tragic outcome for our community. Thank you for the call, bro. I appreciate it. When they're talking about, again, a potential return of Trump to the White House, what in the world it looks like. And one caller, I always like when he says the lower caller, when the one caller, you know, just talked about that everything changes. Like this is a game changer if we don't show up and understand what's at stake. And we got to do a better job of understanding it ourselves and being able to articulate it and explain it to people at the barbecue this 4th of July. While everybody kicking around the grill and, throwing back a Heineken or drinking, whatever, playing spades and dominoes, we got to have these conversations. Somebody ought to be in charge in a family to make sure we got 12 people in this family that's the voting age, that's in the inner core. Who's going to be responsible for making sure all in 12 people going to show up and vote? Who's going to be responsible? I don't need you to say the block. I don't need you to save the community. I don't need you to save the country. I just need you to save your own family. That's all I need you to do. If we just did that, we would be further ahead and further along. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, Michelle.
Good
How
morning.
you doing?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Devo, hello, brother. Cosby, hello. Hey, Michelle.
Yes.
I was just wondering, when you get a chance on one of your shows upcoming, can you please educate the people on Project 25? On Project 2025.
Right.
If people don't understand that what happened yesterday with the Supreme Court, we gonna perish.
All right. So
Very simple. So
I
when
got
you get a chance,
No.
please
You know what?
educate.
I can spend some time a little bit on it this morning. I think I wrote an article on Project 2025 for the Milwaukee Courier. I got to go back and look. If I didn't write it, I started it.
I'm gonna look for it.
Okay. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. But
All right.
there is this thing called Project 2025. It has been mentioned a number of times in political debates, campaigns. Just yesterday at the event, the elected official, before introducing Congressman Clyburn, they mentioned Project 2025. Let me take a break. And when we come back, I'll make sure I walk through it real quick. I'll spend more time on it next week. Let me walk through it. I'll be right back. the caller has talked about Project 2025. Let me just take a couple of minutes to just do some high level summaries of what the project entails. So many people know that when Donald Trump first got elected in 2020, I'm sorry, what year did he get elected? 2016. He was surprised that he got elected. You know, even today, people were talking about the fact that he didn't even have an acceptance speech prepared because they didn't expect him to win. And he was a novice, no political experience whatsoever. A lot of the people around him were kind of ragtag, not people that were really policy oriented and understood a great deal about the reach of the presidency and what was possible. So we saw a lot of, missteps, um, policy, you know, nightmares under his leadership and the people he had around. So what has happened in the interim of him being out of the White House for 4 years is that there have been a group of conservatives, the Heritage Foundation, and a number of other major conservative donors, thought leaders, who have said if we get control of the White House again in this 2024 election, November, as soon as Donald Trump hits the ground when he's sworn in January 2025, we got a plan. We got marching orders the same way there was a list of potential Supreme Court nominees put together for him. Donald Trump didn't have a clue about any of this. This has been done for his upcoming presidency. So one of the areas in 2025, this project, it's a 900-page report that was put together by, again, the Heritage Foundation and other groups. But they look at a number of areas that they want to change. So let me just give you a couple of quick a couple of quick areas. Education. Project 2025 does not believe in public education. They want to dismantle public education as we know it, turn everything over to vouchers and community block grants, and let people, just do whatever kind of educational situation they want. They want to get rid of the Department of Public Instruction or Department of Education. They call it a, quote, convenient one-stop shop for the woke education cartel. Okay? They want to get rid of Title I. Title I provides more than $18 billion to low-income students across this country, not just Black, low-income students across this country to be able to help get them a better start for school. They want to get rid of Head Start. They want to defund Head Start. They want to defund and dismantle public education under ideological reasons with this particular cohort. One of the things that they want to do, I spent a lot of time talking about civil rights enforcement. They want to eliminate, of course, all things DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. They want to eliminate federal oversight over education, converting, again, money into block grants and letting people be able, to just choose voucher schools. You taking public dollars to be able to pay for your kids to go and be segregated from other children who you don't want them around. On issues like the climate, they want to get rid of a bunch of regulatory agencies that have been put in place to protect the American people. In doing so, wealthy, rich donors, conservatives, Republicans get to allow these companies to make decisions. So when we talk about pollution, when we talk about emissions, when we talk about food and the FDA and making sure that, products are safe, when we talk about the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, they want these things to be gutted. They don't want to see regulation. But when we don't have regulation, what do we get? We get the ability for communities to be guinea pigs, to be poisoned. We put factories and services in communities that poison the water, poison the ground. Look at what happened in Ferguson, where these people get rerouted from the regular water system to the river, and then they all get this nasty, filthy water in this house, in their homes. That's a part of regulation. And there are a ton of people that want to see a lot of regulatory agencies go away. And so what a lot of the prominent groups like the Sierra Club and different climate and justice organizations have said is you literally getting ready to have a death sentence for everything we know around environmental protections, on immigration. And callers, I'll be right there. But on immigration, we got a double standard. Donald Trump, it was so crazy. Talked about his whole uh immigrants coming to take black jobs. And the running jokes have been, so what exactly are black jobs? I'm not familiar with it. What's a black job? Because the job I have in the state capitol, I don't think that's a black job. It's just a job. What's a black job? I mean, like, this man is racist at his core. At his core, he is racist. And it shows up all the time. Immigrants coming to take black jobs. What are those? And I heard the back and forth between Keith and Meach yesterday. And Meach, oh, don't do that, don't do that. These people working in these major no, they not. No, they not. It might be some employers that's getting away with undocumented people working there, but they not CEOs, vice presidents, bank tellers. Those are jobs that black people have too. So understanding, how there would be federal financial aid blocked for children whose parents brought them here illegally. These children were brought here as babies. They did nothing wrong. America is the only country they know. People have talked about they for sure need to have a pathway to citizenship because they are innocent victims of what was done around them and to them by parents. And some of their parents didn't even live or survive the journey to America. But no, that work that Barack Obama and them did around the DREAM Act, letting these people be able to get education, get jobs, take care of themselves, be self-supporting, we want to get rid of that. And when Melania Trump's mama and daddy needed to get their immigration status fast-tracked and become a U.S. citizen, it was fine. It was fine. What white privileged people can do for themselves and their family members. It was fine. But we can't make that available to other people. What happens in terms of our budget? What happens in terms of the caller talked about LGBTQ people? They want to roll all them rights back. Clarence Thomas has even basically said when Roe v. Wade was turned over, the precipice for Roe v. Wade is what other civil rights policies were able to be challenged on. The ability to marry who you love in terms of being in the LGBT community was protected under Roe v. Wade. Clarence Thomas's interracial marriage protected under the premise behind Roe v. Wade. He walked right up to the line and said, we're going to be able to figure out if we need to revisit LGBTQ marriages, but we're not going to, of course, revisit my situation of me being married to somebody outside my race. We ain't going to do that. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, Michelle. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you this
morning? I'm blessed. My biggest concern is how can we, I don't want to preach to the choir because I think the choir knows what we got to do. At least most of it. I am concerned that we're not, if we are, we need to get busy or get out and reach to the young people and let them know what they have to lose. Such as, the daycares, the daycare centers, as well as housing. I'm meeting a lot of young ladies coming up to the scam. You know I can get a room. I met one this weekend, and I helped her. I got her number and everything. I didn't know where to take her, but she did manage to get a hotel. Thank you, God, I was able to help her. I don't know her. Okay, the other issue is where are we going as a target to try now? I've been kind of ill physically, but it doesn't mean I don't have a car. I can still go to some of the sites that I did go to when I was trying to take people to vote, assist them in voting. Okay. Um, so my question is there a way that my mind working, Michelle, that we could uh, get to target places for the younger, the Generation T, the Generation X's, and go and target these places and talk to them about what they stand to lose and just get the reason why. I know I see some beautiful young men out there registering. And I'm talking about us, the sisters out here, to get out here and help them understand what we have been talking about this morning. What they stand to lose. Now, last night after I heard those about the Supreme Court, I don't, my body don't even feel in pain. In pain every morning, Michelle. But you know what? That I keep that thing to the curb because the baby, my grandbaby, just I'll be dead and gone. But our baby climate stands to be hurt. Breathing, the water. We got good water. I was down in California recently. That water out there, you guys drink bottled water. You probably know that.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my God, Michelle, I can't wait to get home. This water better than California water.
I mean, I even do it when I go to Birmingham though, because the water down there, they don't
Yeah,
treat it the way we treat our water, and you can tell. And
yeah,
even when I would go to my mom's house, I was like, I can't drink this water. What is going on? He's like, is this well water? So I know exactly what you're talking about. In California, traveling a lot, you know
yeah,
what's going on. So yes, ma'am.
yeah. And Denver, Colorado, the two states that have good water, there's the Great Lakes and Denver. Those two states, they have to serve all along the coast. Yes, the two things. What I'm saying though, and I'm gonna let you go, is we get young people some kind of way, some kind of way, and get them to understand. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna lose kids and everything else. If we come with a plan, help me out with that. You got my number.
Uh, yes, ma'am. I got it. And we'll have this conversation because going into the 20 I'm sorry, into the August primaries and the November election, we're going to be doing everything we can to get people on board. I'll tell anybody, and thank you for the call. I'll tell
I got a
anybody,
car.
start with
I
young
got a,
people in your family. I
I got
mean,
a car. I
eh,
got a car.
yes,
I
ma'am.
am
I
willing
got
to
you.
work with you.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
willing to work with you.
All right.
Okay,
Thank
baby.
you so much. Bye bye. But yeah, start with people in your family because your kids are going to educate their friends. I know Harvey has conversations with his friends all the time because we talk about it. And sometimes they need to hear the message from people that look like them, that are in their age group. Let me go to the next caller. Somebody just texted me said I was only number 3 when I went to vote this morning. Again, please, please, please remember there is a special election today to fill the remaining 4-month term of State Senator Lena Taylor in the 4th Senate District. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning. First thing I wanted to say is black people really wanted to make some leeway. Give these people their God back. Give them their God back. Because it has done a lot of things to your thinking when it comes to using logic and common sense. When it comes to people being homosexual or whatever the case may be, if you go back, whether it was the Catholic Church, the Baptist Church, all the raping was done by the men. They were doing the raping of the boys. And even if you do your research on your animals and your dogs, it was done by the men. So I think we need to use some real common sense. And then also I want to say for some of the religious people, if you was really religious and you really was all about that Bible, when your God who said, bless my hands, the war, and my fingers to fight, you will be out there 10 toes down. When you decide to take or follow a religion, you can't cherry pick for it to be convenient for you. And basically, what a lot of y'all religious people y'all did, y'all cherry pick. Because if you are all about that good book and your so-called God, especially when God told Moses it was okay to rape, for all that rape and all that in Deuteronomy, y'all would have been out there raising $1 million a year. And these people that are against you now took that same book that God you follow, which is their God, to keep you on your knees rather than having you up ready to fight on your feet. They using it against you. That's why we're going back, all because of that Bible. Because y'all only want to stand up when it's about your convenience. But when the real stuff that can get order on earth, y'all don't want to do that. That's why y'all waiting to die to get your blessings after death when you should be getting now. But those white folks, they getting their blessings now. Y'all black ass is going to be waiting right up there on another plantation. And if he couldn't protect you on earth, why would he protect you in heaven? Use logic. You see, God said that he was your protector. He ain't protect none of us black and colored yet, but we can protect each other. But y'all use that Bible out of fear because a lot of y'all are cowards. That's why y'all stand behind that Bible. But when y'all get that liquor up in you, oh, y'all the biggest in on the street, then. But I'm going to just leave it at that. Have a good day.
Thank you, bro, because you already, you already know. Somebody hit me up, and, it's one of my favorite people. And it's a Michelle. I'm going to chalk it up to you misspoke. Roe v. Wade has nothing to do with interracial marriage. That would be Rubbing v. Virginia. I'm going to need you to pay attention because there was also another case that was cited in the Roe v. Wade decision that does impact same-sex marriage, contraception, and other rights. That case, and let me pull it up, they referenced the case and other precedents from the case called Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. And when I went back, and because I want to pull the exact case that was cited, and all you got to do is just Google the story, what Roe v. Wade could mean for the rights of LGBTQ people, and you will see it. I ain't make it up. I ain't misspeak. I pay good attention. I know exactly what they talked about and why I'm able to tell you Clarence Thomas was the one who walked right up to the line, basically saying we could revisit the rights that were extended to the LGBTQ community in terms of same-sex marriage, but didn't mention interracial marriage, which was also a part of this case. So the case is where is it? I will find the name of the case, but no, I don't have to do the heavy lifting. Y'all can go look for it. There is where the hell is this case at? There is a case that was cited that could open the Pandora's box for LGBTQ rights. So it wasn't just about Loving. Loving was not the only case that addressed interracial marriage. There were others. So with that being said, something else I was going to say before I got to get out of here today. Let me see if I can take one time you misspoke. I ain't misspeak. The nerve. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, Carla, what's happening? Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm making a quick comment. 'Cause I'm at work, I have to hang up. But Tory Lowe and Elizabeth Brown every day is talking against the Democrat, telling black people got two choices to either settle the couch or vote for Donald Trump.
I know they ignorant. I know.
Yes, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And I'm just gonna say it like that. And I don't mean ignorant, as people, I mean the comments are ignorant. That we have got to be careful about shut up, Keon. Keon, you always misspeak. We have got to be careful about who we, are getting information from. Because like I said, I find it so disingenuous that on one hand, you show up at the school board meeting, rally and do whatever to help public education, but then you tell people either not vote in their best interest when it comes to these upcoming elections, either stay home or choose Republicans. I don't understand it, and I'm not trying to get into a war with anybody because everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I'm gonna tell y'all, for the most part, the only real truth that's being told is being told on this radio station. That whole name over there is a farce. It's a farce because you got talk show hosts sitting there who will please stop texting me about loving V Virginia. I know what I'm talking about. Do your homework. Jesus. Um, there are people. Okay, wait. I mean to holler. You know, because I appreciate your engagement. But for real, fam, please do your homework. It's a simple Google search. Did the overturning of Roe v. Wade potentially impact same-sex marriage? Just do that. Don't send me nothing else about loving. Just do that. Just do that. And to make it easy for you, since you don't want to do that, I'll pull the case so you'll have a basis. But Clarence Thomas yes, he did have the right to marry before um, Roe, but it was based on a principle that was used to also argue Roe because one thing built on another. Stop, man, and do your research. Okay, what was I getting ready to say? I don't even remember that. Talking to these people. Tory Lowe. That's it. Tory Lowe is a sellout. He's getting paid from the RNC. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with his checkbook, his bank account. I don't know. But I know that it's too many. Like, I don't really. I'm not, and let me not. I shouldn't say really. I don't listen to the truth. For a number of reasons. I just not my cup of tea. But what I also know is that you got talk show hosts that talk off both sides of their mouth. That depending on who's paying them, they be talking to advocate stuff that conservatives support. They'll be talking to advocate stuff that Democrats support. Depending on who's paying them. Follow the money. Frequently, there is money involved in some of these conversations. When people just get on and let people say all kinds of good stuff that you question, and you're like, wait, what's happening? What are we doing? This sound crazy? You know, again, I'm not here to bash nobody, but I also can't just go along to get along and say that you don't hear stuff that's concerning. And people pull my coattails, then I go back, I listen to the show, and I'm like, you said what? You thought that was the truth? Whose truth? Whose truth? Because this ain't black folks' truth. This is the version of truth that white people won't tell the black folks. And that they found Negroes to co-sign for. Whose truth? See, that's why people don't like me, because I'm going to give it to you. And you ain't going to pay me for it. I tell people all the time, Michelle, we want you to do this. No, I can't take money. Because the minute I start taking money for certain things, then that means I'm compromised. See, I can't take your money. I remember when I went to go work for Chris Hayden, my salary could have been substantially higher than what I was making in the state Senate. And I remember saying to Chris Hayden, I'm going to work on your campaign, but you have to pay me exactly what I was making at the state level, not a penny more. Because nobody will say that I came on board because of money. I came on board because I agree with the policy that he was trying to get done. And I had saw Chris Carson was vindictive with power. I gotta go. It's sad though. We only got a few outlets for black people to get information from black people. And when you got to look at black folks sideways because you don't know what they're telling you, I'm just gonna say this as I unplug for this morning. You may not like what I say, but I ain't gonna never lie to y'all. I don't have to. I can defend whatever it is I put up as a position. Gotta go. Eva? Appreciate you, bro. Carvey,
You do.
appreciate
You do.
today. Today. Tomorrow's a whole new day. Go vote. Call people in your family. Ask them, did they vote? No vote. No vote. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace.
In a revolution. There's a war going on in here, girl.